Hello everyone, I'm coming for a new episode of High Vibe Monday, and today we're going to talk about Feng Shui for business. I'm really excited to talk about this because Feng Shui has really changed my life in a dramatic way, and it's a story that I love to share. But first of all, what is Feng Shui? Feng Shui is the art of placement in a house or in a business or in a room to help balancing and harmonizing the energies. Now, I think it's originated from China. I've heard about it for the first time in Hong Kong, where it's really big. And that's one of the reasons why I was put in touch with this practice. But actually, interestingly enough, it started off for me in Paris in the year 2000. So I want to share my story first so that you know why I'm so passionate about Feng Shui. And of course, since then, I've trained as a Reiki master, so I can actually feel the energy. I've helped people who I felt had energy stuck in their houses that were affecting their businesses. And it's something that I do intuitively. There's so many different schools of Feng Shui. I think there's the black hat one, there's several schools, and some of them are incredibly prescriptive. For example, they will ask you to have a cooker of a certain size in your kitchen, certain colors in certain rooms, and I think it's a little bit too much. I prefer, because colors affect us, and if we have a color in our kitchen that's good for the feng shui of the kitchen, but that we don't actually feel good about when we walk into our kitchen, I think it misses the point. So I think it needs to be more tailored to the single person. For example, if you had red in your kitchen, everything in red, it actually increases appetite. It might be good for you if you have a small appetite and you need to eat more. But if you were, for example, in need of perhaps eating less, then that's not a good idea. So it's that kind of thing. But let's start with my story, and I hope you'll enjoy it as much as I will telling the story. It was the year 2000. I was in a job that I wasn't really enjoying, if I'm honest. My marriage was very challenging, and I had a host of health problems. And I was having a Shiatsu massage at the time because I was suffering from quite a bit of stress. And it has so happened that my masseuse was also training with a Feng Shui master. So she talked about it to me, as you do when you go for your massage. Sometimes you have a little chat, and it intrigued me. So I thought, well, I'm going to give it a try. I'm the kind of person who likes to try something, and if it works, I keep doing it. I don't necessarily, unless my intuition tells me it's really not for me. So I tried Feng Shui, and so I invited this her Feng Shui master to visit my home and to see if we could improve the energy in it. And at the time, it wasn't too messy, my house. There was one room that was a little bit cluttered, but the rest of it was, fairly tidied. I still had help in the house. Well, not from my husband back then, but I only had 2 children. So now that I have 4, it's become a little bit more difficult to keep tidy. But back then, it wasn't really the clutter that was an issue. And what happened totally blew my mind. So this man knocked on the door. He looked straight out of a film. He was Vietnamese, quite an older man with a little goatee. And he rubbed it a lot, actually. Apparently, it helped him to think things through. And I didn't share anything about myself. He just walked around the rooms and he asked only 3 questions. He asked first if I had health problems, and I said yes. Then he asked me if my husband spent a lot of time in the office pretending he had a lot of work. And I didn't know about the pretend, but he was definitely spending a lot of time in the office. And the third one is he asked me if I felt like I had a glass ceiling in my work, and that was exactly how I was feeling. I couldn't believe that a man could tell that much about my life just by looking around my flat. And so he gave me a couple of remedies that were very exotic. One of them was to put a fishbowl on top of a cabinet. And he said, it doesn't matter if it's a real fish. And as I happened to have a Venetian glass little fish that my sister had given me, so I put it in a bowl of water, and it looked a bit strange, but I thought, I have got nothing to lose. Let's do this. It could be fun. Then he asked me to put mirrors inside cupboards and by the side of one window in my house, which looked really weird, but I thought, why not? Let's try this out. And the third was to put little chimes above certain windows that apparently, certain doors, because the flow of energy wasn't working from the hall. When the first room you get into our flat, it wasn't working too well. Now, I was astounded by the results of these remedies. I honestly didn't believe that they would work. And my husband, who was incredibly cynical, well, my ex now, nearly had a laughing fit when he saw everything I did in the flat. But, and this is the most interesting part, within weeks, I had an amazing job offer in London. I left my husband, which was exactly the right thing to do. And my health massively improved. I'm sorry I haven't been looking at the screen too much. I've been focusing on my notes and the recording. And so it's actually the results that motivated me to learn more about this practice, because I can see looking back that the flat that we had was L-shaped. So there was a whole part that was missing. And this is one of the things that Feng Shui focuses on, is to make sure that there's no parts that are missing in the house, or if there is, to kind of bring the energy and recreate that harmony. Maybe they think the square or rectangle is the most harmonious shape for a house. And in the Western world, we've never paid really much attention to that. In addition, our flat was above an arch, so people could actually walk under our flat. And we weren't on the first floor, we were on the third floor, but still, it's something that can affect the energy of your house because it's not grounded. There's something moving underneath constantly. And so I've learned to really trust and give some value to all these rules that seem to have an impact on our energy. I can really see how if you were living in a flat above an arch, or where people were walking underneath, that would affect your energy personally. So then after that, as I said, I was offered an incredible job in London. So I moved from Paris to London. And then, strangely enough, my job in London was with a company that had been created by a Hong Kong company. And so they were really big on Feng Shui. And in a way, it's a good thing that I already knew a little bit about it. So they had the things that were quite strange in their offices. They had 2 big porcelain elephants in the reception hall. And the offices really felt different than the offices that I've been working in before. I have to say that the offices I'd been working before I joined that company had felt really harsh energetically, and this building didn't. It was so different. I was impressed. So it's furthered my interest in Feng Shui, and I'm so glad it did, because it was something that really changed my life. So when people start learning about Feng Shui, they learn about the bagua. So I don't know if you're aware of it. It's a square with 9 boxes that you apply to the shape of your office or your house or your office building to find out where there's. I'm going to give you the names of the different corners so that you have an idea. So you put the front door at the lower end of that square. And then the front door either leads to the knowledge area, the career, or the travel, because these are the 3 sections. And the second layer, which is the squares that are just after that, are the family, health, and kids. And then the last, usually people focus on the prosperity corner, which is the far left corner. Fame is in the middle, far middle, and the relationships are on the far right. I'm oversimplifying this, but it's kind of actually important, because if you were to apply this grid to your home or to your office, and you can identify where the clutter is, or maybe where the energy is congested, or maybe there's too many things in that space, then it might actually mirror what is happening in your life that has been blocked by this clutter or this overcrowding of the space, or maybe there's things there because it's a corner where you dump everything that you don't need. And this is a fascinating exercise to look at it and see. Like, for example, in our flat in Paris, the relationship corner didn't exist. And in fact, our marriage was a ghost marriage. I never saw my husband. He spent all his time in a law firm. He would come home at 10, 11 o'clock at night and wake up at 10 in the morning when I was gone for work, and then drop the kids in school and everything. So there was no relationship corner in that flat. If I had known about Feng Shui, I would have never moved in that flat. It had and before, in our previous flat, we didn't have these problems. He wasn't as absent. There were problems for sure, but not this one. So it just makes you think in a different way. But I would say this, before you even focus on the bagua and trying to make your prosperity corner or your relationship corner or your travel, whatever it is that you want to enhance, it's important to first declutter. So I'm going to talk a lot about decluttering in this episode because it's important to not have too much. I think we live in a society now, especially in the West, where because it's a consumer society, we're constantly encouraged to buy more and more and more. And I'm holding up my hand, I'm no different than any other person. If you look in my wardrobe, you'd probably think there's far too many clothes in there. And look at the books behind me. I'm going to declutter them. I have already done a declutter about 2 years ago where I downsized it by nearly half of it. And I'm going to continue to do that. And the reason why I'm actually doing this episode today is because I've been on a decluttering mission. It so happens that it's in our prosperity corner, but it doesn't matter. It's something I had I've had some health issues, and I've been a little bit busy with my children who had needed a lot of attention. So I've neglected a part of my house, which I now have the energy to dig into. So I'm going to give you all the tips that I wish someone had given me to help me declutter when I needed it, because I didn't know how to do these things. So what is clutter? Clutter is something where the energy is stuck. And the problem is that the moment you start a clutter pile, more clutter will fall on top of it. And I saw that when my house started to feel a bit cluttered. My kids would dump their stuff where there was already something, and then it would grow and grow and grow. If I didn't pay attention, it would end up, because it has that sticky energy that it acts like a magnet for more clutter. So what exactly is clutter? It's things that you do not use or that you do not love. I don't know if you've ever had someone give you a present and you love that person, but you really hate the present, but you keep it just in case, because if they come and visit and they don't see it, then they'll feel offended or whatever it is. This is such a hard situation because every time you look at this, you'll have mixed feelings, and it's likely to drop your energy levels. It's likely to lower your vibe. And this is High Vibe Monday. How important is it that we have a high vibe to be able to follow our dreams and to have the energy to run our businesses and keep going, and the enthusiasm? So you don't want around your house things that are going to lower your energy. Or it could be that it's something that was given to you by someone, a friend, and then since then maybe you had an argument, you haven't been friends since, and every time you look at it, it reminds you of the bad feelings. So these things, they need to go. I know it's really hard to let them go because they might have been given to you by someone that you love, but they need to go if they lower your vibration. So you need to go around your house and look at things as if you were a Martian, as if you were an alien coming into your home, and say, does this lift my vibration? Does it not? And have a ruthless eye around the place, because we get used to to our living environment, or maybe it's in your office, because we're talking about Feng Shui for business. And, this affects us in a profound way at the subconscious level. We're not aware necessarily that it's affecting us, but we pay attention and we notice things a lot more subconsciously around us than we are aware. So it's very important to keep our environment in a state that is going to lift us and make us feel good. Now, the other thing that clutter is things that are disorganized or untidy. And believe me, there's no judgment from you when I'm talking about this, because the reason why we do this is very, very often because in our own heads we're disorganized, or we're maybe confused. So our surroundings reflect our inner world, which is why it's hard to get started. And I'm hoping that I'm going to give you the spark, the inspiration to get started, because once it's a little bit like a car that hasn't been running for a while. If you get the engine started, it's the hardest thing to do, but then after that it gets easier and easier and easier. It's a bit like with exercise as well. You know, the first step is going to feel really, really hard, but then as you gain momentum, things will get easier and easier. So this is my promise to you. If you feel stuck, and so yeah, the fourth element of clutter is anything unfinished. So I'm going to sum it up very, very quickly because I've been rambling a little bit. First, things you do not use or love. Second, things untidy or disorganized. Third, too many things in a small space. I forgot to say the third one. And fourth, anything unfinished. So write this list down and start with one corner. See if there's anything unfinished. Now, suppose you started an art project. I know it's not going to be in your office, but your home also affects your business because you spend a lot of time, and you might be working from home as well. So that will have an impact. If you've started an art project and you haven't finished it, and it's been over 6 months or a year, make a conscious decision. Either you're going to finish it or you just get rid of it, because it's stagnant energy. You do not want stagnant energy in your home. How can clutter affect you? There's so many ways that it affects you, but the main effect is that you will feel tired. It will keep you in the past. It can block your prosperity. It can make you procrastinate, and it can put your life on hold. And you want none of these aspects, to be honest. We need as much energy as we can muster to do the things that we want to do. And basically, clutter comes from fear. It comes from fear of not having enough. It comes from fear of letting go of stuff as well. We tend to get hooked up on things, including the past. So I have 5 tips to get started. First, identify where your clutter is and make a decision of where you're going to start. That's number 2, is select one area you will start with. It could be just a drawer or a desk. Okay, don't make it big, because the problem, the main problem that happens is people will tidy a little bit in one area, a little bit in another, and a little bit in another, but it doesn't show. So if you focus in only one area and say, okay, I'm going to do that folder, this folder with all my invoices, maybe something like that, I'm going to tackle it, and I'm going to make sure that I do as much as I can and only commit to one thing at a time. That was my rule number 4. Rule number 3 was to allocate 10 to 15 minutes a day, no more. We can all, that's another problem. It's the same with exercising. You think, okay, I'm going to go to the gym every day for 1 hour. But then if you count the time to go there, the time to do your exercise, shower, get changed, come home, it's actually a lot more than an hour. And we don't have that much time in the day, most of us anyway. So we end up not doing it at all. Whereas if we decided, and I'm continuing with this parallel, I'm just going to do 10 minutes of brisk walking or running every day, you're sure to do it, because everybody can free up 10 minutes. So it's the same with decluttering. Only commit to 10-15 minutes at a time, and that's why you need to focus on one area, because then you can make a difference in 10-15 minutes. And if you do more than 10-15 minutes, then that's perfect. But only commit to a small chunk so that you're sure to stick with it. And have 4 boxes, okay? Go and buy yourself 4 boxes, and you have 1 to donate, 1 to throw away, 1 to fix, and a spare one for the things that you're not sure yet. So you work through these boxes, and when they're full, obviously, you take it to the donation center, whatever charity, or you give it to friends. Throwaway is easy as well. Fixing, well, then you give yourself a deadline on when you're going to get it fixed. And the last one is the one where you're not sure yet, and you'll have to come back to it when the time comes, because when it gets full, then you need to sort it again. So the clutter test is asking yourself 3 questions. Does it lift my energy when you look at it? Do I absolutely love it? And is it genuinely useful? Now, I want to recommend a book for you, and I know Marie Kondo has been very, very popular recently, but the book that's helped me the most is called Clear Your Clutter with Feng Shui by Karen Kingston. It's a very small book. It can be read over a weekend easily. Sorry, my eye is itching me a bit. And by the time you finish reading the book, you will want to declutter. She has that power of inspiring you with stories and anecdotes. It's alive. It's a book that is really inspiring. It certainly inspires me, and actually I've decided I'm probably going to read it again, because it's a book that you keep and you read again and again, because we're constantly in need of decluttering things. There's constantly new things coming into our homes, or we might want to reorganize our homes. Things have changed, whatever it is. Now, if you feel in a space where you don't feel the energy mentally or physically to do decluttering, the very first thing I would recommend that you do is open the window, let some fresh air in. Right? The second thing, this might sound really, really weird, but I'm going to ask you to clap in the corners of the room to break up the energy. If you have some bells, Tibetan bells, even better. But you can use just your hands. And then make a sweeping motions with your arms to pull that energy that you've broken in the corners and throw it out the window. It's symbolic, but at the same time, you'd be surprised how different the room will feel with just doing a little bit like that. And then start your day by this 15 minutes in one corner, or a place that you've decided to declutter. And I had a really interesting experience last week where I did some decluttering on a day where I was feeling a bit low, and I knew every time I do decluttering anyway, it raises my vibration. I feel so much better at the end. And I had actually a client inquiry within half an hour of decluttering. I am not joking. It can be that powerful because it raises our vibration, and it moves the energy. It breaks the stagnant energy in our home or in our business. So that was my episode about Feng Shui. I hope you've enjoyed it. I can also help you by clearing the space in your office if you want me to. I can do that remotely. I've done this many times. And happy decluttering, and I hope you have a wonderful, harmonious and vibrant office environment thanks to my tips. I would love to hear your stories after you listen to this episode. Please implement it and come and share your stories on my Facebook page at I Can Help You Thrive, and feel free to also send me a message. Have a lovely week. Bye for now.